The teaching of the cycles of seven is the teaching of self-love. From birth to death, life offers the opportunity to love ourselves, love our existence, love our body, our work, our mind, our soul. We extend from our love of self, love for our friends, our family, our home, our planet, our galaxy. With self-love comes the urge to grow, to expand, to evolve, to amplify our light, and let that light shine for the enjoyment and the betterment of all. Self-love is awakened and deepened in cycles of embodiment. As we meet the victories and challenges of life, our existence either evolves through self-compassion and the willingness to learn and master our life lessons, or degenerates due to self-recrimination, self-pity, shame, regret, or blame. To take full responsibility for the preciousness of any given moment and the unfoldment of our destiny is to respect the privilege of life in human form. Life in human form, just as the life of cosmic law, cycles. Life itself is a cycle of birth, evolution, involution, death, and rebirth. The teaching of the cycle of seven is the span of one cycle of incarnation, one human life, one bead upon the Buddha's necklace, divided into a series of 7-year cycles. Each 7-year cycle offers the opportunity for awakening, learning, mastery, blessing. Within each cycle of 7 can be found the potentiality for physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual growth. The cycle turns at the age of 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49, 56, 63, 70, 77, and so on until death. Each cycle resonates with a guiding purpose, supporting us through our life changes. Each cycle awakens latent memory, trains new habits, sculpts our personality, and invites spiritual awakening. Each cycle of 7 asks for a deeper understanding of the life and a greater personal responsibility as a citizen of the world, as a citizen of the universe, as a disciple of light upon the path of conscious evolution. As spiritual seekers, the call to raise our vibration, ascend upon the octave scale, climb the proverbial Jacob's ladder beckons. As we respond to the calling, as ears and eyes are opened, moment by moment, year by year, we begin to comprehend our work within any given cycle. Our approach to each cycle of 7 should be that of full, empowered, and clear self-responsibility. Extraordinary, vital transformations of our existence are possible as we use each cycle of 7 to evolve. We must strive within a cycle to look, act, feel, think, lead with more compassion and wisdom. Each cycle of 7 offers the potentiality to attain the next octave note. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti is a cycle of 7. The achievement of the next octave note, note by note, is the relative work of self-love. It is the power of self-love that gives us the determination, courage, and care that is needed to ascend and embody our higher frequency, our inherent light. Each cycle of 7 gives us the gift of time. To use this time wisely, with knowledge, direction, and inspiration, so that we might ripen the fruits of our love, is the teaching of the cycle of 7. Hello, 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 and welcome. Can everyone hear me? Where are you coming in from? Jesus, welcome back. Tim, Yvonne, great to have you here. If you can, please put on your video so that I can see your beautiful faces and interact more readily. Hey, Tim. Excellent. Yvonne, thank you. The Netherlands. Wow, beautiful. What time is it there, Tim? Calgary in Canada. Yvonne, are you in my time zone? Are you in Central? I'm noon here. 7 p.m. for Tim. Okay, good time. MDT. Okay, excellent. So you're hour behind. Excellent. Beautiful. Well, welcome to our spiritual life month. We're right at the end. I snuck in on the very last day of the month. And so yeah, that's what it is. How has the month been going for you? Just drop in the chat. Is there something spiritually top of mind for you? Is there a question or an interest from what you read in the event that you would love if I took a deeper dive into? I've, of course, have a presentation ready for you, but I would love, especially with the smaller, more intimate group, to attend to whatever your most burning desire is in this time we have together today. So feel free to drop that in the chat. We're going to be talking today about high initiation and hollow bamboo and what that means. We're going to be talking today about the cycles of seven as a way of becoming more and more conscious of initiation and our evolution. And also about such specific practices as the MoonLodge for women and rites of passage such as the Vision Quest for men. And Cycle of Seven, Yvonne said, that's me next year. Very nice. Me too, actually. 2025 is my next Cycle of Seven. I'll be heading down to Peru. All of it, Jesus says, beautiful. And Tim, I've rebuilt my life book and put the spiritual life into the first 11th area and renamed it to my consciousness. Love that. Beautiful. Well, awakening consciousness is what we're going to be talking about. Initiation, really, evolution, in fact, is about awakening consciousness. Each cycle of seven, which I'm going to take a deep dive into, gives us this opportunity called time, 7 years, to become aware of where we've been, celebrate that, also prepare for what's coming, and most importantly, set ourselves up for a tremendous amount of evolution or spiritual growth within that cycle so that we arrive at that point of initiation, 7 years old, 14 years old, 35 years old, 77 years old, at a different rung of the ladder or a higher octave note or a higher vibration, higher degree of openness, perhaps open-mindedness, even tolerance, less depression, less trauma, less anger, more light, more love, more compassion, more motivation, perhaps more faith. And when we begin to really break down the rhythm of a cycle of seven, every 7 seconds, every 7 minutes, every 7 days, every 7 weeks, every 7 months, every 7 years, every 7 lifetimes, we can begin to feel that indeed we are in tune with the cycle of the universe. And just as our year passes through 4 seasons, winter, spring, summer, autumn, we also pass through seasons of the life. As the universe cycles, we also cycle. And as we become more and more aware of those cycles and we tap into them, the cycles of the moon, the cycles of the sun, the cycles of astrology, we can begin to awaken on levels that we were previously unaware in the mind. So Yvonne, maybe I should go to Peru too. Yes, you should. I'll put a link in if you want to look at it. You can come with me. It's open. I'll be taking a group down there. My last cycle of 7, I went with some dear friends who've been walking the path with me a long, long time. But this next one, I'll be taking a much larger group. So I wrote in my introduction or my description that spirituality is not elusive. And I have found in my many years of spiritual coaching that many folks approach even their religion from a sense that it's somehow not tangible, it's something outside of themselves. And even if it's inside themselves, somehow they understand that it's confusing or it's not grounded in something that they would consider reality. In their day-to-day practice of life, in their eating and their sleeping and their working and their parenting and their lovemaking, that it's somehow separate from, rather than part of, infused through, because of all that we are, in my opinion, and based on science, such as the science of quantum physics. Tesla said everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. So this energy is moving through all things, including our body, our consciousness, our thoughts, our relationships, our time here, the amount of time we actually have on this planet Earth in this particular lifetime. So what I want to present today are these the way in which we can make this seemingly elusive spirituality or consciousness very tangible. And the way that we do that, and indigenous cultures have done that throughout time, is simply called rites of passage or ceremony or ritual or particular specific initiations that mark a point in the life or a point in the awakening or in the point of the sacred spiritual expansion of an individual. And these kinds of rites, these kinds of ceremonies are available to us either personally in our own private home, or of course in a group, in a gathering, in a ceremonial space, presented by a medicine man, a medicine woman, a guide, a guru, a spiritual leader of some kind. So to begin to make you aware of what I have learned and practiced for many, many decades through the lineage of my own ancestry and culture. I am Dakota. I'm Santee. The Dakota is one of the three bands of the Sioux nation, the Dakota, the Lakota, and the Nakota. And my teacher he's passed, is Lakota. So my altar is Lakota. And my MoonLodge and Sweat Lodge, and I'm a Chinoopa carrier, a sacred pipe carrier, move from the tradition or the lineage of that Lakota altar, that Lakota line, or that Lakota path. And so I wrote in the description too, I'm about to put up my son's Vision Quest next week. He's turned 21. It's his third cycle of 7. This is his transition from his youth into his manhood. And he had a profound rite of passage at 7 years old, where he entered his first sweat lodge for 4 rounds. And then at 14, he had a second rite of passage, which is called a wopula, or a giveaway ceremony. So there was a ceremony that was put up, and then he was responsible to create and make gifts for everyone in attendance and also feast them. So he cooked a meal for over 40 people and fed them all and served them. He had to do all of it on his own. And now at 21, he'll have a sweat lodge and then a vision quest, which is 4 days and 4 nights in Lakota tradition on a sacred hill or a sacred mountain, fasting, no food or water, seeking vision, communing with great spirit, with energy, with his higher self, with love, with light. And then when he comes down off the mountain, there'll be another sweat lodge for him. And then he'll present again a wopula, giving thanks for all who have supported him throughout his first 21 years of youth, who are there to witness this moment of his transition into manhood. And then he will move in his full responsibility into the world, as not only as a man, but a citizen of the universe, a citizen of this world, with the responsibility to care not only for himself and his family, but for the world, the earth, and all of our relations. And so it's a tremendous moment. We head toward the land on Monday. And so it's all feeling very real and tangible for me right now. Yvonne said my daughter is 21 as well. Beautiful. So we're going to dive also today into the outline of the women or the girls' rite of passages, which are slightly different traditionally. Women certainly Vision Quest now, women certainly Sweat Lodge now, but originally and traditionally, women are in a state of purification and visioning every month on their moon time, on their menstrual cycle. So the need to sweat happens every month when we cycle. And the need to Vision Quest also happens every month because during our moon time, our menses, the veil becomes very thin. And we're essentially in a Vision Quest if we're conscious and tapped in every single month during our menstruating years. So a girl's rite of passage through the MoonLodge teachings would begin at 7 years old, similar to the male child. When she transitions from infancy and total dependency into the moment where she begins to really learn. That might be through formal education, if a child goes to first grade, or it might be teachings of the community or the tribe that surrounds her. But she is no longer a baby child. She's now a young youth, present to learning what it means for her and prepare what it means for her to become a young woman. And her next rite of passage, whatever her age, would be at the time of her first menstrual cycle. And it's a beautiful ceremony. It's a beautiful, powerful honoring. She steps into the center of a circle surrounded by aunties and grandmothers and sisters and cousins and the women. And she's celebrated for this moment and then also prepared how to take care of her, not only her menstrual cycle and her body, but her sexuality and her work on behalf of her family and her tribe. And then she feels, rather than afraid of this bleeding time, like so many women, at least in my generation, came into our moon time without knowing. It was secretive, it was dirty, it was hidden. We didn't really have any knowledge. And it created a lot of trauma for a lot of women. But these ceremonies allow us to return and heal those moments. So that would be the second rite of passage for a female child. And then her next rite of passage at whatever age would be when she becomes a mother, the mother rite of passage ceremony, because now she's moving from being a maiden and quite independent to being a mother and responsible for a life beyond her own. And then her final and fourth rite of passage would be when her menstrual cycle ends and she moves into her menopause years. We call her years of her crone years or her golden years, where she's now not only responsible for her own children, but for all the children. And as grandmother, as elder, as wisdom keeper, the children come to her feet and she tells stories in the oral tradition and helps teach them to bake cookies, or depending on the culture and where you are and the time that it is. So these are the rites of passage or initiations in the cycle, in the 4 cycles of the feminine. For our young men, it looks like what I described: 7, 14, and 21. And in indigenous cultures, at a time when there was still hunting and living off the land, a boy would move from his mother's skirt, it's called, at that first rite of passage at 7, and then begin to spend the majority of time with the men of the tribe. And he would begin to learn how to hunt and how to erect teepees or yurts, or depending on where you are indigenously in the world. And then at 14, he would become a young hunter or a young warrior, or he would be on the track of becoming a young medicine man, or whatever the elders saw his gifts, his inherent gifts to be, they would guide him in that direction. Same, and so beautifully so with the young girls. The girls would be seen by their elders, and their inherent, very natural talents would be noticed, and they would be nurtured along those lines. And as a teacher, for those of you who don't know, I'm also a professional dancer and teacher. And with so many of my students, at least in our American culture, this idea of having a dream, and if you have a dream, you can achieve that dream and live your dream no matter what your level of talent or education or expertise. And there are many young dancers that I have had to tragically let them know in a good way that a professional dancer, a career as a professional dancer, is not in their future. Doesn't mean they can't dance. That doesn't mean they can't teach. They can't interact in the world of dance and theater and art in many ways. But to become a professional ballerina or professional dancer on any level, there are some specific things that the body must be able to do, qualities that the body must have. And if the body just doesn't have beautiful turnout and extension, one is not going to become a professional classically ballet trained dancer. So the difference in the more ancient indigenous cultures is that that child would not have been encouraged in that direction early on. It would have been seen that he did not have the absolute necessary qualities that are not negotiable for that particular line of service or work in the world. And this is a beautiful, very important teaching that I would love to see come back through our youth's education, where they are seen by their teachers, by their parents, by their grandparents, by their elders, by the clergy, for who they are and what their talents are, what their energy naturally is. Some are introverted, some are extroverted. Some have a lot of natural energy. Some are a little more quiet and subdued, need more rest. And all of those qualities lend to a very particular line of work and way of being in the world. And when we can support our youth, and by extension, when we can support ourselves by knowing ourselves in such a way, becoming conscious of who we are on all of those levels, we can create a life vision that really suits the gifts that we've been given, the gifts that we've come into this life with. And that does not in any way mean we can't learn and cultivate new abilities and new hobbies but there is an innate talent, an innate energy that we each come in with, and that complements so beautifully other aspects of the life if we can make that connection. So rite of passage and initiation helps us to make those types of connections. Before I go on further, any questions? You can unmute yourself if you would like and figure out how to do that, or you can put it in the chat as you prefer.
Oh, I see that we can unmute ourselves.
Great, perfect. Thanks, Tim. Hi.
Hello. Thank you for this introduction. A lot of knowledge that I'm not skilled at whatsoever. So I'll be just here listening and kind of like listening for insights. So let's see where we end up.
Great. Wonderful. Well, if any specific questions come up, please just chime in, put it in the chat. I'm very happy to get into as great of detail as you would like. Beautiful.
I think it's, oh, sorry. I think it's so interesting what you just said, because in my heart almost sank, because you realize how messed up society has gotten us. And my daughter, I've always encouraged my kids as a single mom, just do what you want to do. So you go to university, you don't like it, drop out, do what you want to do. And my daughter and I were talking this morning that I was saying when I went to university back in, Gen X days, that there's no internet. You don't know any different. You don't know what you don't know. And knowledge is everything. And our parents don't have the knowledge to even pass to us because of how society is set up. And she had just run into her friend on the highway just by pure fluke. and they were chatting, and her friend was in engineering or something. And then with COVID, she decided, I'm going to go travel, and has spent 2 years traveling. And now it's like, no, I'm not going back. And everything was kind of pushing her to that. But her mom is a personal coach and is like, you do you. And I was the same when my daughter switched what she wanted to do. You do you. And these two girls at 21 are so happy. They're so happy. My daughter is actually running a campsite with her boyfriend, who also grew up with parents who really showed him to be who he was. But these kids are 20 and 21. They're running a campsite. They're living it off grid in nature. They both still have jobs. My daughter's a chef, and her boyfriend is works at a lumber mill, and the family lumber mill. But you just see the difference in their energy than when you look at these kids who are just they're lost because they didn't have any direction. And so it's just interesting that my daughter and I were talking, and she's 21 and I'm 55. So next year I'll be 56. But just how that knowledge was basically called voodoo or whatever, crazy stuff. And yet it absolutely just respected who you were at your core. And none of us knew how to get through puberty, and they have all these mental health crises is because our parents did not know any better. Their parents were in the war. They absolutely did not know any better. And then they quashed these traditions that knew. And it breaks my heart because, and I just see how, and I know my partner, his grandma was Cree. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't discussed in the house. So they're from Quebec, so they're Métis. But the culture was literally quashed when you married a white man. and he's really going through a transition, and he's like, I know I have to get back to my Cree roots. Like he knows he's supposed to be in that direction, but there's zero guidance. There's so little. So what you do is friggin' amazing because it really opens it up. I remember when, you started your period and it was like so hush, so secret. So you didn't know what to do. You didn't even know you could take Tylenol or something or different. Like I wouldn't do that now. I don't take anything, but you didn't even know. You knew nothing, and it was not talked about. And we got to get back there. Because I even tell my kids, one's graduating this year, if I had kids now, they would never enter these types of institutions we have. Never. I would never let them get brainwashed. And my kids went to schools where they do their own learning. So it really promotes what you're good at. If they didn't, and even then I'm like, I just don't care. Just graduate. The younger one's going in to be an electrician. So fine. Do what you want to do. I don't care. But it's such a different perspective I have now than I had even 7-8 years ago. Like, so for my kids to be introduced to it, and I always tell my kids, like, you might think I'm, that crazy mom out there, because her friends come over and they're kind of just shake their heads sometimes in our conversations. But we were never exposed to it. It was never talked to. And it's planting seeds. You just do what you want to do. Like there's no rule. You have to go in your heart and find that out. And I'm shocked, like these kids' parents are still telling them what they have to take at university.
Yeah.
And I think 3 of them are going in to be teachers. But the knowledge they teach is just what they're told to teach.
Right. And until they're around you enough and they begin to see, you plant those seeds and they see that there is another way. And that always sparks when we see someone else doing it a little bit differently than what we know, that always sparks some curiosity, or it sparks more shutdown, right? It sparks more lack of tolerance and separation. But those of us who are in this kind of community are likely not those people. So for you and in your world, continue to be that beautiful light for these young ones, even if you're not sitting teaching them something specific. They're noticing through your own children and through you what more is possible in the world. So I really applaud you for holding that space and that energy.
You can tell they're curious. These kids are curious because it's so different than how their parents are. And they have good families. Like these are good kids in good families. Yeah. But it's just that they're just not exposed.
And youth naturally embodies that generally. Youth when we look at little ones and all the way up until to the years of real adult responsibility, we see that they're naturally curious and inquisitive. And that's how they learn to walk, and that's how they learn to talk, and that's how they learn to play, and that's how they learn to sport, and that's how they learn to interact in the world, because they're curious. And one of the beautiful things about initiation as we age, and this is for all of us here right now together, is that with each initiation or each awakening, each expansion of consciousness, we become, in fact, more childlike in the sense of more curious, more playful, more full of love and willing to give and receive love fully. And where we are closed to learning, where we are closed to love, based on background or trauma or an imperception, a wrong perception of life responsibility, the more we close down, the faster we age. And the less we're able to initiate and awaken our consciousness. So one of the beautiful things about becoming more and more aware of these cycles of seven, as you said, Yvonne, 7, 8 years ago, you're in a very different place than you were even then. That is a cycle of 7 years. You've done a tremendous amount of awakening and learning and expansion and willingness to expand, to become conscious. And so this is the call. In my opinion, this is our responsibility. And until we recognize, or we really realize that it's our responsibility to awaken, to attain enlightenment, by whatever name you want to call that, curiosity or enchantment or love, then we at least begin to hear the whispers. We begin to hear the whispers. We're not sure where the whisper's coming from, in our own heart or mind, God, somewhere outside ourselves, a partner, a friend, but there's a whisper that's calling us to a new understanding and to looking differently at a particular way of being or a subject matter. And just that calling, if we respond to that calling, that is an initiation. That becomes a rite of passage. And it is your right to have that passage. It is our right to grow, to evolve. And as we invite more and more, as we respond more and more to the calling, those rites of passage and those initiations, and I always like to be really real about people, they become more challenging as we go. The early ones are, they're little awakenings. Ooh, isn't this cool? This is really fun. I feel really good. I feel better. I just did my Qigong and I'm feeling really vital or peaceful. But as we awaken and as the rites of passage become more and more demanding, there is challenge there. And I like to just speak about this, because what people tend to do is get scared, shy away, shut down, not have time, make excuse. I don't have the money. I have this responsibility, that responsibility. And the tests and the trials and the teachings that are inherent in a rite of passage become slightly more daunting the further you go. And yet, you have gained more and more courage because you've taken previous initiations. You've gained more and more wisdom. You've gained more and more trust. So though it's more challenging as you go, you also have more internal resource and support to help carry you through the challenge that's coming. Of course, as we all were and would be, my son is quite nervous, sometimes scared to sit for 4 days and 4 nights with no water and no food. And yet I remind him that he has been prepared all the way along. And although this is a bigger step than he's taken before, it's necessary to take that bigger step because he's moving from his youth into his adulthood. And that, as we all know as adults, is a big step that at that age we can't even conceive of yet. when we become fully responsible for all our expenses, and then maybe a spouse or a partner, and then maybe children, or maybe our work, which might mean that we are responsible for systems or people's lives or the health of the planet, whatever our work is, that level of responsibility requires a tremendous amount of self, what's the word? Being assuredness. And so when we move into a rite of passage or a ritual or a ceremony that's particularly demanding, and for those who have been in a sweat lodge, I'll explain more about what that is for those of you who don't know. When you've been in a sweat lodge and come out well and alive and feeling quite good, though very tired, you know that you can go into a sweat lodge and survive it. And so a rite of passage such as this is to build that inner knowing and that inner resolve that I can meet the challenges of life head on in a good way, and I'm going to come out the other side empowered rather than defeated or devastated. And this is why these rites of passage through the life, including our life as adults, are really important, because they build strength and fortitude for what may come in the life that we're unaware of. Things like accidents and tragedies, those things that are outside of our control. When we invite challenge and intensity into our life consciously and meet it, we are building our own inner strength and our own inner reserve and resource. So let me go back just to explain a sweat lodge. A sweat lodge is a Native American ceremony where a very low, shallow lodge, it's called, is constructed. Looks very much like an igloo, but it's made out of wood and covered with hide. And then there's a beautiful sacred ceremonial fire where big stones are heated to a glowing red, fiery hot. And those stones, those grandfathers, the essence of those stones carry wisdom, ancient wisdom. They're brought into the lodge, and the door, the flap is closed, so it's completely dark inside the lodge, and then water is poured over those stones, which of course brings not only heat, but steam. And the sweat lodge is meant to purify on the level of the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the energetic or the spiritual. And it's often four rounds or four doors. It'll open 4 times, and each round has a very specific intention. And then when we come out, it's like coming out once again of the womb of our mother. So when we go into the lodge, we're on our hands and knees, we put our forehead to the earth, and we return to that womb of our earth mother. And one could say that we are born again within that lodge. And when we come out, it's an opportunity to begin again, begin anew, fresh, clean, clear, pure, having been healed and restored on many levels. So that's a sweat lodge, very briefly. Yes, Tim, please unmute yourself.
Thanks so much. Like I did a sweat lodge a while ago, and what I noticed quite often, yeah, it was really great. What I noticed quite often is like the not the teacher, but the man who was guiding everything, like the like I'm myself in a certain state of mind for myself in my spiritual journey, or however we want to call it. And I quite often notice when I am working together with other people while doing this, that I'm noticing the resistance of them. So like, and it creates me not interacting with most people because of that. And that is helpful, but at the other side, you kind of want to like live in this 3D reality in this world. So I don't really have a question, but I noticed that for myself, I'm kind of like annoyed by it sometimes. Yeah, sometimes I feel like a little bit too conscious.
Yes. Yes. I can relate. Those of us who are on a spiritual path, either beginning or well into it, can all relate. And And I have seen over and over again, and I know on a very intuitive level, that the very thing that keeps most people from stepping onto a spiritual path in earnest is knowing on some level those things in the life that must be sacrificed in order to become more and more conscious or more and more enlightened. And one of those things will be relationships, either new relationships or old relationships. And it just simply becomes a choice. And we may or may not be ready to make that choice to let go of this third dimensional reality, as you said, and our full participation in it. And yet there will come a time, because you already have enough awakening, you're already on the way, where you can't not continue. Your soul is drawing you into that direction. And then the next thing I like to really let people know is that there are other people who are on the spiritual path in the way that you are. They're not in the day-to-day grocery store, here, there, workplace, but we are here, and we're becoming more and more known to one another because of the internet. You're Australia, Canada, I'm in Wisconsin. We would not have met unless we had this, portal called the internet in order to do it in this way. And
yeah, and like what I noticed for myself, the relationships part, I kind of bridged that part already. Like, I barely have any people around me anymore. But what I noticed when I am doing a spiritual event itself, then I noticed that the teacher is on a different path or a different level. I don't really like to talk about levels, but like belief systems, depth in belief systems. I find it very difficult to find the correct teachers to guide me into that next level. And that's also partly the reason why I'm here in Mind Valley Lifebook and a couple of the other communities. Yet I find it for most that I haven't really found my tribe or my people that I can really resonate with to make it to the next level. And spiritual hierarchy is something that to be careful upon. So, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, really good. Thank you for sharing. It's so vulnerable and so intimate, and I appreciate that and your authenticity. It requires the willingness to just keep meeting people and experimenting and showing up. It's really as simple as that, and you will in the trust of divine timing and the unfoldment of your path and the lessons that you need and will want to be learning as you travel upon your very personal path. All of this experimentation and knowledge and the people you're meeting, the ceremonies, all are playing a part in the wisdom that you are gaining. And so several months or sessions ago, when I was presenting for Lifebook, I gave the teaching of Hamsak, which is really about recognizing those parts of our ego that create a negative thought pattern and how to dissolve those thought patterns. And one of those sometimes, and we all feel it on a spiritual path, is this sense of impatience. And when will I find my people or my tribe or arrive, or my medicine man, spiritual guide, guru, et cetera, et cetera. And if we can quiet or eliminate that voice, that energy, we can begin to see all that we're learning, all that's being presented to us, even if it's not the right fit or the perfect fit or the tribe. Your tribe is already forming. You just may not see it yet. Soon it will begin to reveal itself in a way that you will recognize it fully. And it may come as one full group all at once, or it may be individuals coming into your sphere. But I do trust and I do know that will come for you as long as you continue just as you are, which is being open and joining these different platforms and meeting people and showing up. It will come. There's a lot for you to learn, it sounds like, and experiences to have. And that's all the exciting part. That's all the childlike part, playing in different sandboxes and playgrounds and traveling around and meeting new kids. And, they play basketball and they play, jacks and they play jump rope, and you're checking it all out to see, which game fits you the best. And that's a beautiful thing. This is a beautiful part of your journey. Similar to parenting. I don't know if you have any children, Tim, but each stage of my son's life was its own journey. It was its own energy, and I didn't like any of them more than the others, but they were quite different, and they were all part of this beautiful awakening called parenting and mothering. And so allow this, my response to that would just allow this to be part of your spiritual journey, your spiritual awakening. Your tribe is already with you. You just may not see them. They may be in another form right now, but they're with you. You wouldn't be where you are right now if your tribe on a higher dimensional level wasn't standing right there at your back, and helping you find your way. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see. Yvonne had a few comments. I filed for divorce on my last 7 cycle. That's a big 7 cycle. Clearing, purification. Excellent. So true about relationships. We find our communities. It takes a while. It does. I'm much more selective who I spend my time with. Yeah. And it's very important to be selective also, because our energy is fragile isn't the word I want. What is the word that I want to use? Sensitive. Our energies are sensitive, and as our energies become more heightened, other energies around us, we're going to feel, we're going to embody or identify with those energies, unless we've been trained to not identify with another person's thought or mood or energy or stance in life. And so to not protect ourselves, because that tends to cut us off, but to be very conscious about who and what and why and how we interrelate in the world, is an act of self-love. It is an act of self-responsibility. Again, that is a rite of passage as well, when we become conscious of the fact that we need to choose the energies that we surround ourselves with. And it makes a difference in our life, moment by moment, when we do. Great. So thank you, Yvonne. Exactly about energy. I get exhausted with the wrong people and energized with the right people. And that's a great indicator. That's your litmus test. It's one of many. And, and are you learning something new? And are they excited to learn as you? There's a lot of little litmus tests, but that one is key. That one is absolutely key, to pay attention to. All right, let me see what else I want to offer. Jesus, I wonder if you're working, but feel free to chime into the chat anytime you feel called to do so. Let's see. MoonLodge Vision Quest Cycles of Seven. Okay, so as I have every month, I've got a PDF that you can download. It's free. Let me just go ahead and put that in the chat for you. Oh, my mouse isn't working. Okay, here. Let me see if I can get that in here. If you'd like a copy of the PDF, just click on this. And when you put your email in, then the PDF will come right to you. It does not put you on my email list unless you request that. So don't be afraid of that. It will just get you the PDF with the little email from me that says, hey, so glad you want it. If you want to be on my email list, you can check that box, but that's completely up to you. So these are excerpts from my upcoming 2 books. And they talk about Rites of Passage, talks a lot about what we're covering today. With a wonderful quote from my beloved teacher. It starts out, "We are changing our destiny moment by moment. We are choosing and defining who we are, what we are supposed to be doing. It is not year by year, but moment by moment. Ascension can be moment by moment. And I love that. It brings it all into the present now moment. And that in itself is a whole higher level of consciousness, to be so present in each moment as to understand that this moment has the potentiality of an initiation. Who can I be? What can I learn? What can I embody? What can I exude or expand or radiate that somehow blesses and lifts my own vibration or those of others? So that's how it begins here, but I'm going to take you into the back of the PDF. There's an invitation to practice, and I'm going to share a little bit of this, and then I'm going to take you into a practice if you'd like to journey along with me. A few of the cycle of seven practices. The first, express gratitude in a tangible way for each cycle of seven you've previously turned. So one bit of homework, if you like homework as a teacher, I love giving homework. But after today's time together, if you'd like to spend some time and charting out 0 to 7, 7 to 14 years old, 14 to 21, 21 to 28, so on and so forth, and just look at some of the major rites of passage, initiations, life changes, life events that happened in each of those 7 years. And there are those who look back into the past and see the trauma or the events that created sadness or grief or anger or frustration or failure or loss. But go back into those cycles of seven and express gratitude for all that came to pass in each of those 7-year cycles, so that you can begin to create a relationship with that which the universe has given you to learn. Even John and Missy talk a lot about, there is no failure. There's just an opportunity to learn. If you take a mistake that you've made and turn it into a lesson and grow from it, there is no failure. Likewise, there are even tragic events in the life that if we choose, if we're willing, we can transmute the horror, the trauma, or the sadness of those moments and understand that they've given us life experience and wisdom, and we become more compassionate. We can hold another who's going through a similar life event because we have wisdom and experience of that very same experience. So this is a practice that you could take. Thank the masters, elders, parents, teachers who have granted guidance to you in each of those cycles. So beginning with your parents, no matter how good or bad your parents were, your teachers, your clergy, all the way up and through those of us who are parents, including our children. My son continues to be a phenomenal teacher. So that's one practice. The second, identify where you are within your current cycle of seven and choose to respond to the spiritual currents of this cycle and study the esoteric knowledge to deepen your understanding of self and universe, which that part you're doing that with me today. This is one way of many that you're doing that. Pause to observe and dissolve the negative aspects of the personality ego so you can liberate the virtues of your soul. And if that doesn't make a lot of sense to you, go back a few presentations back that I gave early on, the Cosmic Mind presentation. And I talk a lot more about personality, ego, and virtues of the soul. Another practice you could take on is to pause, just simply pause. Every 7 days, every 7 hours, every 7 minutes, every 7 seconds. Take a break. Take a breath, take a Sabbath. But can you imagine every 7 seconds becoming aware of the eternal now, every 7 seconds, and then every 7 minutes and every 7 days, and every 7 years is the next one. And this, Yvonne, is what you might be thinking about for next year. Tim and Jesus, I don't know where you are in your current cycle of 7, but if you're coming up on a 7, Prepare consciously for your next cycle of 7 and mark its turning with a sacred celebration. At each turning, at each celebration, take a 7-day break. This break allows time to meditate, fast, reflect, pray, rest, celebrate, give thanks, and prepare to walk the next 7 years of life. When walking, for instance, the second stage of life, you have already passed the first stage. So it is your responsibility to walk with more maturity and not regress to a lower vibration and a past way of thinking or walking or being. Each cycle of 7 is an invitation to walk as a superior being of light. At each turning, offer a wopula, a giving thanks ceremony. A traditional wopula includes such rituals as offering gifts and a feast to those who attend, who stand as witness of your gratitude to life, to spirit, and to your cosmic opportunity to evolve. So that's a beautiful way to mark a major rite of passage, which is that turning from 35 to 42, 49, 56, and so on. Pause the life for 7 full days and celebrate all that life has given you and all that's been, all you've become, all you've learned, all of your wisdom, all of your relationships. And then also spend that time preparing yourself for the next 7 years that are coming. All that you're visioning through your own life vision, but also for the unknown, for those things and circumstances and events that you have no control of and you don't even know are coming. How do you prepare for that? It's very individual, but just to be conscious that I'm taking time to rest and replenish and rejuvenate and set myself in readiness for whatever may come next, willing to reach out for help or support as needed along the way. I am feeling grounded and anchored and prepared for whatever life is going to bring in this next cycle. And I'm willing to learn from it and grow and evolve through it. So this is a beautiful practice. When I turned 49, I went to Peru and I spent actually 21 days in Peru. I first went to Peru in 2001 and met my current teacher. He's an Inca Chasqui, a Peruvian messenger of the sun. And he has totally transformed my life and my community and my family. So when I turned 49, that was where I wanted to spend my 7th cycle of 7, back in Peru again with my teacher in the sacred mountains, in Machu Picchu, in ceremony. It was really powerful. And then this last one, the internal rite of passage ceremony, a daily practice to raise the octave note. This is the practice I'm going to take you into now. So if you're willing, go ahead and just get yourselves comfortable in your chair, in your cushion. You can lay on the floor if you want. Close your eyes and just simply begin to breathe naturally and deeply. And I'll give you a few moments just to come into that present, quiet, still point with your awareness, with your breath, and on your breath, and through your breath. And as you exhale, let go of tension in the body. As you exhale, let go of distraction on the level of mind. As you exhale, soften a heavy or open a closed heart. And as you exhale, just begin to feel your energy release any blockages, any constriction, so that your energy flows beautifully, freely, naturally, powerfully. Whatever that might mean to you in this moment. So on your exhale, simply letting go of that which you no longer need to carry. And with each exhale, letting go on a deeper level. As you let go, you create space. And so on your inhale, fill that space with the intention for evolution, for expansion, for growth, for drawing in enlightenment, enchantment, love, playfulness, strength, health, peace, serenity. Invite that beautiful, powerful energy in on your inhale and fully receive that energy. Allow yourself to receive. And on your exhale, continue to let go. And make more room, more space in the body, the mind, and the heart for more of that which is good, the universal life force, the prana, that which gives life to the life. Receiving on your inhale the fullness of life. And breathe deeply. Receive fully and release fully. And enjoy the receiving. Enjoy the letting go. And now bring your awareness into what I call the temple of the heart, to your heart center, to that space in the center of the heart where the energy of your internal love resides. We call that internal love our internal mother. Always present, waiting, listening, ready to embrace us, nourish us, nurture us, love us, hold us. So bring yourself there into the embrace of your internal mother, your internal love. And imagine using your creative imagination, a fire burning upon the altar of your internal love. Fires of love warms us, also purifies us. It ignites our own internal fire, our vitality, our motivation, our strength. As you inhale, bring oxygen and oxygenate that fire and feel that fire roar, a bit bigger, a bit stronger. See it with the creative imagination. Feel the warmth in your heart center if you can. And then allow your imagination to take you stepping into the center of that internal fire. See yourself stepping fully into the fire, into the flame. And allow that fire to consume, dissolve, disintegrate that which you no longer need to carry. Those aspects of self that both define and confine you. Let that burn. Allow the fire to consume, dissolve, disintegrate that which you no longer need to carry. Those aspects of self that both define and confine you. And as the fire consumes and dissolves, begin to feel yourself becoming lighter, free, liberated, purified, pure. And as your lighter state of being is achieved, allow your essence, your soul, to rise from the flames like a phoenix. Feel what that feels like to rise as pure essence out of the flame and into flight. Having had a sumptuous fire cleansing such as this, the soul, your internal phoenix, rises radiant, beautiful, clear, unobstructed. Envision this energy, your essence, ascending into the effervescent universe. Enjoy this quality of essence. Enjoy the ascension and the quality of the effervescent universe. Liberated from the dense physical illusion and in resonance with the cosmic consciousness, receive the blessing of peace. Gently, slowly, begin to bring this state of peace into your conscious physical body and mind. Recognize your breath, breathing peacefully. Begin to open your eyes gently and allow the peace within to see peace without. Orient yourself to the present moment from this place of peace. And then we'll move into the rest of this presentation, into your day, into your next cycle of 7, with peace as your guide and as the revealer of truth. And wiggle your fingers and your toes and move your shoulders and move around in your chair or your cushion. And then just notice what feels different for you physically, emotionally, mentally, and energetically. And Yvonne, if you'd like to unmute and share on that, what do you notice that feels different? And how did that experience move for you?
It was interesting because I'm procrastinating a project, and it's a decluttering project that's about 4 feet away from me. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, it actually gave me total clarity on what to do. And that's just not what I expected. but I kind of had a little bit of an idea, and I'm like, oh, and it just made it make sense. And to the point where I know it can be completely resolved today. And we're talking, it's been a month, right? But it sorted itself out in my brain. So when you said to put it on the outside, I'm like, that is so crazy, because that's literally what's in front of me.
Fantastic. It's very practical, these rites of passage, these little initiations. Every time we meditate is an initiation, a rite of passage, but it brings such clarity. And I always love the response from folks. Oh, I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time. I'm like, you don't have time to not meditate in this world that's moving so fast and furious. Without it, the world is just confused and lost and overwhelmed, and that bit of meditation, so beautifully how you just described, just cleared, and the problem is resolved. You have to do a little action now, but the problem itself is resolved. No mental energy necessary now. Just do the work that needs to be done and you're good.
Yeah, like completely. And it'll probably take me a couple hours. That's it. And I've been literally, we bought a unit, like a shelving unit, but it was missing a side. So we couldn't put it together, and IKEA won't give me another side because I bought it from someone else, even though it was new. And now I just know exactly, lay it on its side, and the one shelf missing can be the bottom, and it'll just be a long shelf instead. And I can put all the games and puzzles that are all over, like it's totally sorted. And it doesn't matter if it's missing a side, because it actually will be more practical with what I now have to do. It's crazy. I'm excited to do it, because I'm like, I'm going to see if this really works.
I love it. I love it.
So
you get
sometimes a missing piece gives us a whole new creativity.
Always, right? Always. This is how humanity has evolved. What is the missing piece? We want to be able to accomplish this. The wheel is a great example. And so we figure it out. We have this beautiful mind. The mind is made to think, but it's not, in my opinion, designed to think without being in collaboration with spirit, with energy, with this sense of a higher knowing, a higher wisdom, a higher mind. And when we connect with that higher mind, with our mind, wow, things come through that. My teacher says the mind doesn't know,
and that's where I'm at. That's 100% explains exactly. And I think that's why my patience has gotten less for, like, it's just like what Tim was talking about. It's like, I can't even be bothered engaging in certain conversations, and it's not any disrespect. It's like, it's just better for both of us if we don't. And my partner and I really feel the effects when we visit my family, who's very much the TV 24/7 kind of people. And if that sums it up. And it's getting harder and harder. And the next trip we go to visit, we're literally just driving in the morning, going to the 1-year-old birthday party and driving back. It's like, we can't even be bothered to stay the night. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting, because it's no hate. It's no lack of love. It's protecting our energy, just like what you had said, because sometimes it can take 3 or 4 days to recover from a 1.5 day visit, and nothing's wrong. This isn't it's chaos. That's the chaotic energy, but everybody's happy. There's no conflict, but it's the energy, and they don't feel that energy. And we're just going like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. Yes. So I think it's super interesting. This whole conversation has been amazing. But I do want to know when Peru is. Like you said, you'll put the information.
Yeah, let me actually, since you bring it up, let me put that in here right this minute. Let me pull it up quick. Give me just a moment.
But I agree, we need our higher source energy to complete our thinking. Otherwise, we're so limited.
Yeah, it's true. And then we're just frustrated and spinning our wheels and wasting time. And there's no need, it's also available to us. There you go. There's a link that will take you directly to the page. And let me take a quick look. Here, let me share my screen and then everybody can see what I'm looking at. All right. Oops. Trying to move it over. That was not the direction I wanted to go. Let me bring this back. Okay. Sacred Tour to Peru will change your life and elevate your soul. Do you see that on your screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Join us in 2025. It will be in September. It will be in the fall of 2025. And there's this button here, Sacred Union Tour Pilgrimage to Peru waitlist. So you can click on that and just put your name on the waitlist. It doesn't, doesn't hold you to anything. It's just so that I know you have interest. And when I start sending out more details, you'll get those details. If you want to jump on a Q&A call with me and ask me a few questions, just hit that button and you'll be able to get on my schedule. And we can have a chat about that. And then this is just a little bit of information about my teacher. He's going to talk about the benefit of a sacred pilgrimage. So a sacred pilgrimage definitely is a rite of passage. It is definitely an initiation of the highest form. Most religious and spiritual traditions have holy pilgrimage, if you will, as part of their major sacraments or rites or life duties. And the reason for that is the masters say one visit to a sacred site of a very high vibration is worth, I'm going to get it wrong now, but something like 100 hours or 100 lifetimes. It's not lifetimes, but 100 hours in meditation. Because you step into the vibration and your own vibration rises and meets it somewhere in the middle immediately. And for some, you might get a headache or feel nauseous or feel really tired or drop into sleep, into an altered state of consciousness immediately. For others, you get vitalized and excited and energized. But the vibration is so much higher that it automatically lifts your own. And the process of transformation begins immediately. And
is it for men and women, or is it just women?
This is for men and women, both.
Okay.
This is a bit of the itinerary, 14 days, 14 nights. There will likely be an add-on. Is Lake Titicaca in the 14 days? As these are some of the potential places we'll go. Some of these will definitely go. But as I hone in, there's usually an option for 14 or 21 days. And on the last 7 days are generally the more advanced teachings or areas that are a little further away from the Cusco Center and the Sacred Valley and Machu Picchu. Lake Titicaca is in a different area of Peru. So it requires, a lengthy bus ride, not more than a day. But well worth the visit. What else is on here I could point out? Some of the teachings that will be shared, some of the ceremony that will be shared is here. So if that looks intriguing to you, just go ahead and get on the wait list and I'll be sending out more and more information. Our women's let's see, if you want to take a mini pilgrimage, there's a women's right retreat that happens every August. That's coming up really soon if you want to take a quick trip south since you're in Canada. And we have a women's MoonLodge weekend and retreat, August 9. What is it this year? 9, 10, 11, Friday through Sunday. And this is the itinerary, but you'll get to experience the MoonLodge ceremony. We'll be out on the land. There's a beautiful saltwater swimming pool and a jacuzzi. And so there's wonderful relaxation time amongst the workshops and the ceremony as well. So that is also something that is available to you. Let me put that link also in the chat so you can find that if you would like it. There you go. Yeah, and then just this site in general where I'm navigating, this is just my website. So you can look around there if that's of interest to you to offer classes and coaching and ceremony. So, all right, let's get out of that for now. But yeah, Peru is a phenomenal pilgrimage. It's said that there are a lot of people, both conscious and unconscious, touring in Peru, either through ceremony and teachings or just as tourists. And in the previous age, the masculine energy is coordinated within the Himalayan mountains. And so there was a huge draw to the east into the Himalayas, and we've received yoga and Ayurveda and Qigong and so many practices of the east, Buddhism. But those energies have shifted now in this age of Aquarius to the feminine energy, and the feminine energy resides in the Andean mountains of South America. So now we've been seeing over the last few decades, 3 decades, an influx of tourism in South America that wasn't so heavily traveled previously. Um, and that draw to the yin to bring a balance. The masculine yang gave what was absolutely needed and necessary during the Piscean age, and now what is needed in the Aquarian age is the yin and the feminine, so that we can bring into balance these energies that are inherent within the Mother Earth and moving through humanity, through our species. So Peru right now, the Andean Mountains, Ecuador, beautiful place to visit. I highly recommend. All right, so with our last few minutes, I just want to look and see if there's anything I wanted to touch on. Yeah, I'll just close by saying, we've talked a lot about initiation. I've alluded a lot to the hollow bamboo. Part of that meditation I just took you through was that ability to empty yourself, to let go of that which you no longer need, is one way of saying to become a conduit for the pure energy to flow, to become hollow like the bamboo or like a flute through which spirit can play, through which spirit can work, through which spirit can radiate. And what that requires is purification. And that might be a shower, that might be a prayer, that might be a sweat lodge, that might be a pilgrimage. It also requires willingness to be that hollow bamboo and what is necessary to become that hollow bamboo, which is that letting go of relationships, perhaps, or coming to learn wisdom. It also requires intentionality or intention to be fully embodied as that hollow bamboo. And beautifully, it requires receptivity. And that was the wonderful thing, Yvonne, in your share that you just received and explained, was that receptivity to this project showing itself to you and how to resolve it. If we are not receptive, we don't get the answer, we don't get the solution. And I like to say, to every problem, there is a spiritual solution. Whatever the problem is, there is a spiritual solution, but we have to be receptive. And we have to be that hollow bamboo through which that information, that wisdom can flow, that love, that higher vibration. And when we become that hollow bamboo, each moment by moment, the beautiful initiations, the rite of passage, are continuously tangible and present in our life. And our lives will completely transform themselves as we initiate moment by moment. So that's what I had to share with all of you today. There's much more. There's much more detail, of course, in any and all of those rituals and ceremonies. But as a way of just awakening consciousness and coming into some new ideas, I hope it serves you well, inspires you, and acts as a call to action. And Yvonne, I know what your action is going to be here a little later today. So that's outstanding. And Tim and Jesus, I hope you glean something really wonderful. And those who will join on the recording, thank you for turning it on and watching and staying with me all the way to the end. And feel free to reach out also. And I'll be excited and happy to respond. So with that, Yvonne, a last thought you'd like to share, and then we'll close.
I don't have a last thought, but it's a repeat, I guess, on how if we do leave ourselves open, we just aren't capable of creating the ideas by ourselves and the solutions by ourselves. And sometimes I think that when we ask spirit, it could just be asking somebody else.
Yes.
It's just a different input. So we might not have to do it alone. The goal might be like, what do you think? And I think all of that together, using other people's creativity and curiosity, can increase ours as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Spirit is moving through all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Love
I guess
that.
that's my last thought.
Love that. Succinct. Beautiful. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Jesus says, thank you, Diana. You're so welcome. Thank you for being here. And Tim, blessings on your unconscious journey there. May it be blissful and beautiful. And I hope to see you all soon. And next month, I'll be presenting for our next category on this life book journey. Have a wonderful month. I love you all, and happy travels.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.